به نام خداوند بخشنده و مهربان. با سلام خدمت دانشجویان عزیز، وقت همگیتون بخیر. Hello everybody, I hope you are doing well. Do you have my voice? Do you hear it clearly? Thank you. Now we have 9 participants in the class. Dear Yusuf, dear Iskandar Shahin, dear Hussein, dear Haidar, dear Zaid, dear Salah, dear Aqil, dear Lays, dear Muslim, dear Huda, Abdulaziz. I hope all you are doing well and good afternoon. Okay, from the beginning, if you have any question, please ask me, and if not, we can start our lecture today. Salam, ممنونم. Salam alaikum salam. Okay, in our previous session, we talked about conference papers. We talked about the importance of conference papers and why we should attend a conference venue and write, publish a conference paper. To remind you, we introduced two general category of research papers: conference papers and journal papers. But in our previous session, we mainly talked about the importance of conference papers. You know that we talked about some differences about conference and journal papers, and we talked about some goals of attending conferences. The first one was here different researchers come together not only to share their latest research findings with other researchers. This was goal number 1, and goal number 2 was to take the opportunity to exchange information, and this was second goal. And at the continue, we talked about some reasons why we should attend conference and why we should write conference papers. Yes, for reminder, to compare journal papers with conference papers, we said that conference papers have fewer pages and easier to be accepted and published. And another important reason is for many researchers, they tend to turn their ideas and research into the conference paper at the beginning. This is so important, especially for you as a master student. When your proposal is approved, then you have a good time to write a conference paper when you are a student. So don't forget about that, because your research will be evaluated and criticized by other researchers. This is so important for you. This procedure very helpful, especially in the future when you want to write your thesis, when you want to write your journal papers. So writing conference papers will help you to advance your thesis and write a good journal paper. Okay, and for reminder, you know that we talked about in many cases these comments, suggestions, and criticisms help you to improve and straighten the topics of your dissertations. And here another main reason, finally, to submit and publish journal papers. Okay, and we talked about getting to know other researchers at the conference may pave the way for the future research collaboration with them. This is another reason that maybe you find some friends when you can write and do some research in the future, especially when you are on the other universities or other countries. It will be very interesting. Okay, and then I tell you an important note number one. I recommended that you should attend a conference while studying for a master or doctoral degree. So, yes, this depends on your supervisor's opinion to write a conference paper or not. But in my recommendation, it is the best way and it is the best time to write conference papers, especially when you are a student. And then here we introduced some. I introduced a useful link to uh, find the titles of conferences, deadlines for them, the venue, and especially the title of national and international conferences to be held in Iran. And don't forget that because you are an international student, that you study in Iran, this is the best way to collaborate with other researchers, especially when you are in Iran. So don't forget about this hint. Okay, so we talked many about this website, and I tried to introduce this website in full. Uh, and we talked about another two important notes. Important note number two is a definitely similar to journal papers. Before submitting or writing any conference papers, be sure to consult with your supervisor and the faculty about the validity of conference. This is so important, and whether the score of this article will be awarded to your dissertation grade or not. This is another question that you should ask uh, about and ask your supervisor and your faculty. And finally, we talked about important note number three in our previous session. I and discussed about the cost of attending the conference is another important issue for any student. Cost of attending, cost of accommodation, and other types of costs that you should be aware of. So before writing or attending any conferences, be sure to inquire about how much cost the university will cover. As I discussed about, some universities will pay in full, or some university may pay some costs, and maybe some universities don't cover any cost for attending to the conference. So you should ask about it to your supervisor and your faculty that is possible for university to provide some cost or not. Okay, any question about the previous topics? Again, I say hello to new participants in the class. I hope you are doing well. Okay, thanks for your feedback. Now, let me continue the subjects of previous session. Now, I want to talk about two general forms of conference papers. Here in فارسی so we can tell معمولا مقالات کنفرانسی به دو صورت ارائه می شوند. نوع اول پوستر. First type is poster and the second type is سخنرانی or lecture. These are two general forms of presenting conference papers all around the world. Maybe it can be presented by poster, or maybe it can be presented by lecture. So here we have in English, these are two types of conference papers. Now I want to talk about uh, what is presenting a conference paper as a poster. Here, as you can see in the presentation as a poster, the researcher prints the article on a special paper with a specific quality and dimensions, and usually in color. Here, for example, this is an example image from internet. Here we have a researcher. This man is a researcher that wants to present his conference paper as a poster. Here you can see he printed the article on a special paper. Here is a special paper with a specific quality and dimensions. Here you can see that the dimensions are bigger than a formal paper we used. For example, for formal papers we use A4 papers for printing, but usually the papers that are used in conferences for posters are bigger than A4. For example, maybe they are A1, maybe A0. I don't know. It depends on the policy of conferences. So here you can see usually they printed in color. You can see some colors in this poster. And in the designated places, the poster is installed. Here you can see some foots for this table, and by specifying a specific time and day. Okay, so for researchers, they give some special time and day for him. So they give him a specific time and day. So he should stand next to the poster, as you can see here. And other researchers, for example, this man, as a other researcher, read the poster here, and if they are interested, share their opinions with the author if they have any questions or suggestions. So this is type number 1 for presenting conference papers as a poster. Okay, any question? Okay, thanks for the feedback. Salam, dear Ammar. Okay, thank you. So if I wanna explain these phrases in فارسی، ارائه مقاله به صورت پوستر. ارائه به صورت پوستر، پژوهشگر مقاله را در یک کاغذ مخصوص با کیفیت و ابعاد مشخص و معمولاً به صورت رنگی چاپ می کند. در محل‌های تعیین شده پوستر نصب می شود و با تعیین زمان و روز مشخص نویسنده مقاله در کنار پوستر قرار می گیرد. دیگر پژوهشگران در صورت علاقه پوستر را مطالعه می کنند و در صورت سوال یا پیشنهاد آنها را با نویسنده در میان می‌گذارند. As presented in figure 1 here. So this is figure 1 and the title is presenting conference papers as a poster or ارائه مقاله کنفرانسی به صورت پوستر. But you can see that I used references here. This is so important for you as a researcher. So why I used references? Because I downloaded this image from internet. This is not my image that I created. This is the external. This is the external image. So please pay careful attention about this important note. When you want to use external images, for example, downloaded from another website, downloaded by another articles or ebooks, don't forget that in your proposal, in your thesis, in your papers, you should cite them, or it is better than you must cite them. So because I use this external image from the website, from a website, I present its reference. For example, let me go to the reference number 1 here. In this lecture, I said that references for figures. Here, the website of figure number 1. Okay, understand that this important note, dear students? So external materials must be cited. Unfortunately, I saw some, proposals that students, don't pay any attention about this important note. They use some external images, but didn't cite them. So this is a very real problem. So for writing any proposal, thesis, conference papers, journal papers, or anything, don't forget that external materials must be cited by relevant references. Okay, so this is so let me explain this in فارسی. فراموش نکنید زمانی که میخواید از تصاویر یا متریال یا موادی استفاده بکنید که خارج از در واقع خارج از این هستش که شما اونها رو تهیه کرده باشید، مثلا از کتابی هست، از مقاله‌ای هست، از سایتی هست، حتما باید اونها رفرنس دهی بشه. این رفرنس دهی خیلی اهمیت داره تو بحث نوشتن یک ریسرچ یا یک تحقیق، و این رو باید حتما خصوصا تو بحث شکل ها هم باید رعایت بکنید. Okay. So now I want to talk about the second form of conference paper, presenting conference papers as a lecture. In this method is very similar to the dissertation defense session. So this is very useful for any student. This is the simulated environment. This is very similar to your dissertation defense session. Why? Because a place such as a university classroom is provided for you, for students, for researchers, and they give you a specific time. For example, maybe they give you a range of time, for example, 15 to 20 minutes. And in this time you should present your research, and other researchers will listen to your lecture, and after that lecture other students and researchers share their suggestion and question with you. For example, here in figure number 2, this is a sample of conference presenting as a lecture. This is for example, a researcher, and here we have, for example, a class, and there are some audiences here, and after you finished your lecture, then other researchers, professors, or students will ask you some question, or maybe they share some suggestions and comments with you. So here in figure number 2, presenting a conference paper as a lecture. Okay, any question about second form of presenting? Okay. Okay, clear. So if I want to explain in فارسی، ارائه مقاله به صورت سخنرانی، این نحوه ارائه شبیه با جلسه دفاع پایان نامه است و مثلا محلی مانند یک کلاس دانشگاه در اختیار دانشجو و محقق قرار میگیرد. یک زمان مشخص را در اختیار شما قرار میدهند، مثلا 15 الی 20 دقیقه، و دیگر پژوهشگران به سخنرانی شما گوش میدهند و پس از اتمام سخنرانی پیشنهادات و سوالات خود را با شما در میان میگذارند. So again, I use external image in my lectures, so I cite and give the relevant reference for this image. Here, reference number 2 is the website that I downloaded the image of this image. Okay, I have a question for you. Okay, so now you can know about two forms of presenting conference papers, poster and lecture. Now, can you tell me that do you have any option to choose between them? For example, suppose that you write a conference paper and you submit that. And my question is, do you have any option to choose that your paper is presented as poster or lecture? What do you think about that? What do you think about this option? Do you have personally this option to choose to present your paper as a poster and lecture or not? What do you think about that? Okay, we have here Les Hussein.
Good afternoon, doctor.
Good afternoon, thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, from my opinion, the common one is the lecture, not the poster. So everyone, I think they go with the lecture.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. This is a good opinion. Thank you so much. Okay, other students, what do you think about that? Okay. As dear Les said that, yes, the lecture form is a common, but don't forget that it depends on the policy of a conference. For example, maybe in one conference they said that all, it depends on all, for example, maybe they suggest all bachelor and master students that submit their papers, they must present it as a poster. This is a one policy that may you face with that. Okay, so for example, maybe in some conferences they will they don't give this option for you to choose between poster or lecture. Maybe they give you this option that all bachelor and master students papers should be presented as poster, and for example maybe PhD and other academic staff such as professors and others can present their papers as a lecture. So don't forget that this is a policy and maybe different from other policies of conferences. For example, maybe it depends on the quality. Maybe it depends on the quality of research. For example, suppose that maybe a bachelor student writes a very good quality paper and maybe in the conference they will make the decision that this paper should be presented as a lecture, or maybe in one conference they give only a lecture form for all presented papers, as one of your friends said about that. Okay, do you understand my explanations about the way that we can use poster or lecture form? Thank you. Yearly, so